Amber here. Thanks for stopping by for another video. I'm going to preface this with one thing. A couple of things. If I sound rough, I'm so sorry. This wasn't the intended video for this week. I ended up losing half of the footage for the one I intended, noticed at 6 p.m. Monday night, so about 9 hours ago, and scrambled to get this video together, done, and everything so that it can be out for noon. That wasn't an easy task, and it was oh so fun. But I did actually manage to do it. Somehow. Yay. I really didn't want to be stuck with nothing to upload. Right. Another thing to preface this with. This one might get a little violent. No, I won't go too deep into detail. But if you're not interested in any of that, please don't worry about offending me by clicking off. It's cool. If you need to leave, leave. Still here? Cool. Let's get this show on the road. This week's character is my nutjob forest sprite, Anna. She's not naturally human, was bound to a human form to try and teach her a lesson about how not all humans are bad. And for so long, she'd hated it. What she naturally is a mix of two species I created, a Drayden and a Lantha. A Drayden is a small forest sprite, a kind of little guardian, I suppose, that helps to maintain the balance of the forest and the ecosystem within them. They're usually found in your bigger forests, like at the base of Mount Fuji or the Amazon or whatever, but pretty much any forest-sized cluster of trees you can find them in. If you heard all that, I'm sorry, my cat's being loud in his cardboard box. Anyway, Lanthas, meanwhile, are water-based warriors. That's the best way to put it. Think like they'd be the guards of Atlantis and whatnot. The designs of both are still being worked on, so I'm not really going to go into detail. Actually, I'm not really going to go into that at all. Just because they are still being worked on. There is one important thing to note, though. Draydens have no physical voice. They cannot talk. They are telepathic creatures, and Anna most certainly takes after that half of her genetics far more. For that matter, the Lantha traits didn't really show up until she was in human form, and the main way they show is her teeth and her diet. They are razor sharp. Anyway, Anna was bound to human form to the form of a child. She was also a mute. Surprisingly, it didn't take long for her to be fostered, and it was by a rather nice couple. She was their first foster, and it all went well at first, or at least well enough. They gave her the name Anna, and worked with her as best they could. Anna was quote-unquote registered, listed, I'm not sure what the right term is, as a problem child, sent to multiple psychs or therapists, but nothing ever came of it. After about a year, the woman that was fostering her snapped. She'd been home drinking all day because she had nothing better to do. At some point in the day, after she'd gotten completely and utterly sloshed, she came up to Anna's room and started to hound her about being a mute and being a so-called problem child. Well, Anna was, but it wasn't exactly her fault. She's not the most level mentally, and she has a few issues. I'm still working out what they are exactly, but she's not entirely sane. She is kind of psychotic, but it's because Draydens overall tend to be, so it just carried over. Anyway, I won't go into detail other than what I did just say. And I definitely won't go into detail about this little interaction because it gets pretty violent. I will say this much. It ended with the woman her foster mother, whose name was Marissa, being dead, killed by Anna, who had used the woman's hot curling iron. The thing is, Anna was provoked. Marissa had sewn her mouth shut because she was of the belief, it's like, you don't want to talk anyway? Alright, I'll make it that you can't. And of course, Anna did not take kindly to that. I don't think anyone would, to be perfectly fair. After doing the deed, though, Anna ran, and she found the man that had been quite a solace for her, as long as he'd been in her life. And this man was one from the wrong side of life, kind of. There's plenty. I'll get into him in his video in the future. Anyway, he hid her away, kept her safe. However, the law did end up catching up to her. Anna was caught and ended up being placed in a pediatric psych ward to hopefully get her the help that she desperately needed, as far as the humans believed. Now, there was an issue. And again, I'm not going to go super detailed for this. One of the janitors was a very distasteful person and thought he could make Anna's time there better. He was, of course, wrong. Though I won't go into detail because they're pretty damn sordid. I will say this much. It resulted in the man from before, who will be getting his own video. His name's Renee, by the way. Getting her out of there and making sure that the piece of work who had assaulted Anna in such a distasteful way would receive the proper punishment. He'd wanted to kill him, but he held back as Renee knew that would not look good on him. After that, Anna was legally living with that man, Renee, and learned she could actually talk, which was good. She wasn't a mute anymore. It took a while. Eventually, the pair parted ways, primarily because Anna just up and left Renee one day with no warning and while he was at work. And they didn't see each other for years. He looked for her and she avoided him super well. During that time, Anna managed to become a skilled thief, managing to keep herself alive somehow until they met again, years later. This time, though, Renee refused to let her leave. It's quite so abruptly like that again, if at all. To be fair, after he helped her with a place to live, she had no reason to bail again. And she didn't. She stayed in contact at the very least. She stayed in the townhouse that she was set up in, and it was while there that she met Andrew. That is quite a story in and of itself, but I will kind of gloss over it. It'll be a bit of a more truncated version, and I think I'll give more information when I do Andrew's profile. She met Andrew as she'd been bringing him home to eat, since Lanthas eat humans, with her being half Lantha. She eats humans. But when she ended up shot and unable to, Andrew took care of her. Renee showed up after she called him to treat her wounds, as he's a surgeon. But Andrew hung around after in order to take care of her to make sure she was all right, despite Anna's protests and warnings. Neither know what the hell happened, but the pair of them ended up connecting on a far more personal level. Anna is one that will never say that she loves anyone or anything. That word is just not in her vocabulary, and she shies away from it and gets violent when it's said. But it really did get to that level. Both ways. It was proven to those that knew Anna and still doubted it when Andrew contracted a deadly mana virus, and it had a 93% chance of death. Anna refused to let that happen, so she went out of her way to perform a miracle. She wanted to change his genetics, make him like her. It had a very high failure and death chance, but Anna reasoned that if it killed him, he was going to die anyway. So, really, it was better to try. Thankfully, though, it did actually work. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there, and I know this is a short one. I'm sorry. I'm just salty that I need to scramble to get this video done and out. Character page, as usual, is linked in the description below. Renee and Andrew will likely be future videos. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Stay cool, cats. This is Amber, out.